Hi, for this tutorial, I'm going to go over our first week's assignment and do that from scratch. So first off, I want to open a new project. In my new project, I do that 12 by 12 by 300 DPI, and then I click on Create. And then once I have that open, our assignment shows that we need to have one photo mat, 2 paper strips, a circle, 7 elements. So we're going to start out with our background paper. So I'm going to go and grab a background paper. And what I like to do is I like to click on the paper that I'm going to grab, and I'm going to show you a couple different ways, but this is typically the way that I create a layout. So I'm going to use this paper as my background paper. I'm going to hold on my left click of my mouse, and I'm going to drag that over to Photopea. Then I'm going to let go. And that will load that into the Photopea program onto your layout. So our next step is going to be the photo. So I'm going to go into where my photo is in my folder. I'm going to use my left click to click on that picture. I'm going to drag it up to my layout paper. And once it's there, I'll let go. And that will load the picture. Now I'm going to use the handles here and resize the photo to a size that I want to work with. And that's the size I think I want to go with. So I'm going to click enter, or you can go up here and click on this checkbox to OK your sizing. And the next step is to do a photo mat. So I'm going to click on the paper below my photo because I want my photo mat to be dragged on below the photo so that I can still see my photo. If you accidentally don't remember this step, you can always go over here to the layers and move them manually. So I'm going to click on that background paper. I'm going to go to my folder that I'm working with. And I'm going to grab a solid paper for my mat. Use my left click, drag it up to my layout and let go. And I've got this paper behind my photo. So I've got my photo over here and then my 2 papers. And this is the paper that I'm going to use for my photo mat. So I'm going to go over here to the rectangle select tool, click on that. And then I like to eyeball my little cursor so that it's even top to bottom from my photo, the top and then the side. I hold my shift key down. Actually, I don't want to hold my shift key down because I want to make a rectangle. If you have a perfect square, then go ahead and hold your shift key down. If you're making something other than a square, then you don't need to hold the shift down. Just kind of spacing that to where it looks good to me. And you can always go and trim this later if you need to, if you've got a side that's wider than the other. Good with that. So then once I let go, then I'm going to click, make sure that the layer that I'm working with is selected. I like to hit Control J. You can see over in my layers that I've got this layer that it created. Then I'm going to select the cardstock and delete that. So now I have just my mat and my photo. Okay, so the next step moving forward, we're going to do 2 different paper strips. I think I'm going to do my paper strips so that they're horizontal here. So I'm going to click on my background layer because I want it to be below my photo and my photo mat. I'm going to go to my folder of my kit that I'm working with. And I'm going to select my first paper that I want to use. I think I'm going to select this one. So I'm going to hold my left click on my mouse, drag it over to my layout and let go. You've got that placed there. Once it's placed there, you can select your rectangle tool. And I'm going to do this a little bit different than what I did before. With the mat, I just drew a rectangle this way and then I duplicated the layer. What I'm going to do this time is I'm just going to cut this part off, select that, hit delete. Oh, I've got to rasterize this first. So I go over to this layer, rasterize it. That's why I do it the other way, because then I skip out on this step, but I want to make sure that you know how to use this step also. So once you've rasterized that, and the way I did that is I am over on the layer, I right click, and then this was highlighted. It doesn't need to be rasterized anymore because I did that, but you just click on rasterize. Once you do that, go back over, whoops, deselected it. Do that again, hit delete. Then I'm going to go up here from the top. Whoops. And I think I want that paper width to probably be about that size. Hit delete. So now I have the one paper strip. And then I'm going to put another paper strip on top of this paper strip. So I'm going to go over to my layers and I'm going to select, make sure that that layer of the paper strip is selected so that my next paper comes in on top of that. I'm going to go to my file. I'm going to select a different paper and I'm going to drag that to my layout. You drag it, clicking your mouse left button, drag it over there, let go, and there is your layout. Now you can't see the one below it. I'm okay with that because I'm going to make a strip and then resize it the way I want to. But I do want to select an area in between probably this darker blue down to this darker blue, just so my pattern is correct. So click on my rectangle tool, make sure that's selected. Then I'll drag it around that area that I want to duplicate. I didn't realize this paper was kind of wavy. Actually, I think I'm going to do it a different direction since this paper is wavy. So I'm going to show you how to rotate this paper. So I've got the layer selected. So if you end up running into the same problem or using a stripe and you want to change the way your lines are running, you click on that layer. So use this tool, make sure my layer is selected. Then you go up here to image, transform, and then I'm rotating it 90 degrees and you can select left or right. This one is going right. So I'm going to rotate right 90 degrees. Click on that. Up and it rotated the whole thing. Control Z, I'm going to undo that. Not sure why it rotated my whole photo, but I'm just going to grab that there and rotate it. Move that where I want it again. Okay, so now I'm going to work with it using these vertical lines. So I'm going to select my rectangle, select tool, drag the size that I think I'm wanting. Then I'm going to do this one, make sure your layer is selected. So right now I wasn't on that. So I'm going to hit the Control J. And then I'm going to go ahead and delete that layer. Looks like my strip here needs to be rotated too. So I'm going to rotate that back to the way it was. Okay, put that back where it was. And I'm going to use my up and down arrows to space that strip where I want it. Then I think I'm going to do one more strip on top of this paper that's a little bit skinnier, or maybe I'll look and see what ribbons I have. So I'm going to go to my folder for my layout, and I'm going to put a ribbon there. So I'm going to select a ribbon, hold my left mouse button down, drag it to your layout and let go. Then I've got that ribbon there. Okay, so the next step is to create a circle. So we're going to create a circle. I'm going to do a larger circle that goes behind this layout. And this is up to you. You can create more than one circle if you want to. But we're going to go ahead and drag in the paper that I want to use to create that circle. And I want it to be behind my paper strip. So I'm going to select my background paper, go to my kit that I'm using. I'm going to drag this paper in, use my mouse, hold the left click down all the whole time, drag it to your layout, and then let go. And then we will go to your, instead of using the rectangle tool, we're going to left click on that and use the ellipse select. So I click on that, and where I'm going to want my circle to be a circle that's the same on all sides, not an oval. So I do want to hold my shift key down to make a perfect circle. So you can decide wherever you want to start that circle and then drag it to the size. You can resize this down later, but just kind of drag it to the part of the paper that you want to use. I'll be making this smaller, but I do want to use more of the paper. So once you've got that selected, you let go over to your layer, hit Control J, and that will duplicate that circle. So you can go ahead and delete that layer. And I'm going to grab my move tool so that I can resize this circle. And I am going to hold the shift key down while I resize this. Make sure I've got that straight arrow. And then resize that to however you would like to. I'll go a little bit bigger, because I know I'm going to be putting some other elements on here, so I want that paper to be seen. Okay, I think that's where I'm going to have that placed. So I can hit enter or the check mark up here to okay that sizing. And then our assignment says to use 7 elements at least. So I'm going to go and grab my elements. Now I'm going to show you a different way to pull in your items from your kit. What I've been doing is I've been going down to where my folder is on my bottom tab, opening it this way, and then you can go in and select. If you hold your control key down, you can select whichever ones you want to use. Whoops, I duplicated. Control C. Okay, let's try that again. So you can go in, hold your control key down, and select the items that you want to use. But I'm going to show you a different way to do that in the program also. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize that again. So what you do is you have your, I'm going to grab my select tool, and then you go up here to File and Open and Place. So you click on Open and Place, and that's going to open up these programs. I'm going to go to where the kit is that I'm working on. And here's your items. And hopefully this is showing up on our tutorial. So I'm going to grab all these items. Grab these down here. And you don't have to grab them all at once. You can grab a few at a time, wherever you want to work with. That's up to you. A lot of people like to just do one thing at a time. Once you do that, it puts them all up here in the top hand corner. It's loading all those. Okay. So right now, all of these items are below what I'm working with. So if I were to drag this tape, it's going to go behind. And that's fine. I'll show you how to move everything up. So we're just going to play around with this. I'm going to just create the layout and kind of walk you through what I do. Feel free to decorate your page however you would like to. But I will kind of walk you through the steps of what I'm going to do. So I'm going to put a piece of tape up here to hold my picture and the mat on there. And right now where it's behind, I want to use my control, and then you've got your left bracket and your right bracket. And I'm going to show you two different ways to do this. But right now I'm going to do my control, and my left bracket moves things up, my right bracket moves things down. So I'm going to click that till it's above where I need it to be. And then I'm going to use this other tape right here. And like I say, again, it is below that. And the other way that you can bring things up besides using the control is to go over here to your layers and actually drag that till it's above the layer that you're wanting it to be. I'm going to size that down. Oops, I'm going to hold my shift key down so it stays in proportion. Put those pieces of tape there. Okay, so next I'm going to use some of these flowers. And like I say, they're in the wrong position. So I'm going to hold my control, my right bracket, hold your control down, and then click on that right bracket till it moves it above those items. So that's where I'm going to grab all these flowers that I want to use in this layout for now. And I'm going to go over to the right hand side and I'm going to select all those flowers. So I'm going to hold my control button down, and I've got flower 876 that I'm wanting to move above. So once I grab all of those and highlight them, I can just drag until it moves it above. Then I'm just going to arrange them, resize them, making sure you hold the shift key down so that your items stay in proportion. If you make a mistake, hit the Control Z. Work on these while you're watching this. Hit enter, go to my next flower. I prefer to not make all my flowers the same size. I kind of make it so that there's bigger ones and medium size and smaller ones. I just feel visually it looks better to have different sizes. Once you move things, make sure you're hitting the OK enter button or the check mark. Then I'm gonna put this bigger flower. The great thing about this is you can move it and resize things and delete things if you want. Put that for now right there. Okay, and then this is what I call ephemera. They're just kind of random elements in our kits that we like to use. They're great for creating clusters and tucking behind things. I like to add more than just the picture in different layers. So I'm going to move that forward by using my control right bracket till it moves above those paper strips and ribbon. I've got the string, move that above, so it's, you can see right here on this corner, it's below the paper, and if you were to be doing a string, you'd want that to be above that paper. Put that where I want it. I'm actually going to get rid of this ribbon because I'm not liking it. I could go in and get a different ribbon from the kit, but I kind of set this up for the class. So I'm going to go ahead and use this banner instead of a ribbon. I'm going to hold my control key down and my right bracket and move that up a layer at a time. I can resize that if I'd like. I'm going to just leave it like that for now. I know I'm going to do a little bit of journaling, so I'm going to need a tag on this layout. And for journaling, you don't have to do it on a tag. You can do it on the empty space on your picture, on your solid paper works well too. So you don't always have to use a tag, but I'm going to use that. I've got this stitching here that I'm not going to use, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Whoops, wrong layer. So I've got that stitching, there we go, I got it selected. I'm going to delete that. The stitching here, this circle, I am going to use that. I'm going to resize it. Kind of put it behind, peeking out this little cluster right here. I typically will pick a corner to work on a cluster when I'm doing my clustering. And then sometimes I'll duplicate it and put it in a different part of the picture. That's just how I work with things. I've got a staple here that I'm kind of playing with, put on top of this tape, which is behind the tape. So I need to move that up with my control bracket. So I'm going to control up with my right bracket. I think I may have been saying left bracket when I was moving those other items. So your right bracket moves things up and your left bracket moves things a layer at a time down. This is a little scrap of paper that I'm going to put back here. My cluster. I could size this later, but I'm going to move that forward on top of that little ticket looking thing using my control right bracket. Okay. Move that, maybe adjust it a little bit. This little scatter. Typically when you bring things in, you'll probably want to make sure that you've got the right layer selected. Instead of putting it all behind like I did on this one, you would probably select just above your paper strips to have dragged in all of your items, but I didn't do that. So you get to learn how to move things up and down. So that scatter, I'm going to use my control right bracket to move it where I want it. And I can adjust that or rotate it however. And if I want to add that scatter over here onto the other side, I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate that. So I'm going to select that layer. I'm going to hit Control J because that selects the selected layer. Or I could bring it in again, and then I'm going to put this up here. So it's got some of those scatters there. Maybe move it out a little bit further like that so you can see it. And I think I'm just going to delete these other elements. I think I'm going to use this orange one because I do want to add a little bit more orange into this picture so it's not all blue. So I'll go ahead and move this down here. I'm going to need to move it above, so I'm going to use my Control right bracket. Move that up a layer at a time where I want it. I like it there. I don't need to resize that at all. And then I'm going to go ahead and make sure my arrow tool, move tool is selected. And I'm going to select these other items that I don't want to use anymore. Just want me to move that circle. Let's try that again. Okay, so I've got that. Hit delete, 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 and delete. Okay, so there is the layout that follows our instructions. I'm going to save this and we'll come back to this same layout, and I'm going to show you for our next assignment when we install our shadows and work with shadows and do some of our text and journaling.